what I like about the profit first model is it maximizes the profit out of the limited amount of revenue that you're really probably going to make. You're going to get to maybe 3 million, maybe you're going to get to 10 million, but that revenue is less significant than the profit, and you want to get the profit out of the business.
Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Every month in 2023, we're going to do a live Q&A call for you listeners to get all of your Profit First questions answered, along with anything you might have heard on the podcast or you want to discuss about your business. They will be on the second Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern. There is a link in the show notes to register on Eventbrite. Come chat with me live. Success leaves clues. You can learn from them, or you can make your own mistakes and learn from them. I prefer to learn from other people's mistakes and their successes. It's a shortcut to a growing and more profitable business. I think we make business harder by trying to do what we want instead of what the market says it wants. We also try to be bigger and the best, and maybe just being happy and well rewarded is enough. We chat about all of that and much more with Steve Halasnik, who is a serial entrepreneur, having built 7 companies over 25 years. 2 made it into the Inc. 505,000 fastest growing list, and these companies have revenues in the 7 and 8 figure range. So he knows what he's doing. Listen in to see what takeaways you can implement in your business. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Stephen Halasnik. It's great to have you join us today.
It's good to be here, Rocky.
Can you share a little bit about your businesses and yourself?
Yeah, so I've built 7 companies over the last 30 years. And those companies, 5 of them have been in the revenue range, yearly revenue of $5 million to $25 million range. And 2 of them made the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in the United States.
That is quite successful. It's a rare place to be.
No, rare place to be is to be like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. But, listen, it's successful in that I've been able to stay self-employed and my own boss for, which running a company was always my goal and dream. And so I'm successful that I have a very good lifestyle, but I haven't sold a company yet. And I haven't, which I will, one of them sellable. And then I've never gone public. That's not going to happen. And I've never, built a huge organization, but yeah.
And so you're running all of them concurrently.
So no, right now I have 3 businesses. I think what a lot of people say is, well, you've had 7 businesses, what happened? Why did you have 7? And I think that's an important question and a distinction. And what happens is when you've been involved in serial entrepreneurship, you find that, companies run their course. And so like one company in particular was one of the first successful companies in that it really generated a lot of revenue. A lot of profit, which is good for a profit first, right? That's what you want. You don't want to generate a lot of revenue with no profit. You want the profit there. That one really, and looking back at it, I was like, wow, that was a good company. It had a limited time of about 10 years because we were catching a wave. And I knew that from the very, very beginning. Most people think that their businesses are going to go on forever and ever and ever. And it just doesn't happen that way. It's, I have a friend who had a very successful business, a $110 million business, and he was actually a competitor. And he said, a business runs like a squirrel. It's like all over the place. And that's very true. So.
And I think that's the thing to realize is that certain businesses are on waves and the world is constantly changing, and to realize where you are in that, because then you can make better decisions. And one of those decisions is maybe you decide to sell out at the top of the wave and walk away, which is perfectly fine. Or the others are, hey, you know what? I realize this is a wave and I'm going to milk it to the end. And I realize that. So I'm going to build so that I can start for the next wave and do that as well. That's an awareness issue, I believe.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot to entrepreneurship. When like someone who's had a successful business, I often think, do it again. Okay, go do it again and see what happens, to see how much of it was success on your part, how much was success on what was going on in the marketplace. There's a lot to it. So being a professional business owner, that's the thing. When I started my last company 7 years ago, so these last 2 businesses, I have a business partner who's fantastic. He is a successful business owner himself. We knew exactly what to do to build a business, and we got it up to 25 million in 3 years. It was we just knew exactly what we needed. And this is the other thing. Let's talk about, like profit first, right? If I hadn't been successful in my second business, with the revenue the profit it generated, I would not have been able to handle the waves of the third business. So, I had a great mentor. He always said, you need to build a runway because you're going to need it. You're going to need it. Every 10 years, there's a recession, and recessions are often what dictates if you're going to survive or not. So, we haven't been in a recession. By the way, we're not in a recession now. Recession is a negative GDP. There also can be an industry standard, and there also could be an industry recession too, where it only affects your industry, which I had that experience too. So saving your money and not making stupid decisions on buying expensive cars and an expensive house it's really key if you expect to stay a business owner for the rest of your life. Now, but I'm not a huge proponent of saying is, well, you just, you don't invest in your business. You just keep taking profit out. I think that really depends where you are in your business.
And I think what I like about profit first is we separate profit and then we make an intentional decision on what we're going to do with the profit based on a variety of factors. And I think the first factor is the business owner's goals. What are your goals as a business owner, personally and professionally? And then if you're going to reinvest in the business, then let's create a plan and let's get a return on the reinvestment. I think too often we spend money without figuring out how are we going to get a return? What is the return? In other words, if you're going to spend money, you can make 10 different choices. Well, how about we look at the 10 choices and whatever math we can put to it, we may not be perfect, right? How do we test and say which of these 10 choices has the best chances of success? Maybe you pick 3 of them and you test 3 of them with a little bit to see which one catches the wave. And then you go all in. I think too often we build it before it's proven.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I think it's Chanel. For your listeners, I don't use the profit first model. That came out after a lot of my businesses began. And also at $25 million in revenue, I think it still would be applicable. But this is what I would say is the thing I like about profit first is twofold. Is one of them is knowing your numbers is really a skill set that you gotta have. And profit first forces you to do that. Because when you first start, I remember I had a business coach after a couple of years in business, the first thing she made me do, which, I was a very good student, but we always had a cheat sheet on an Excel document of all our important KPIs, making sure I focused on, because, biggest mistake I made when I was younger was, and everybody does this, is you focus on revenue, right? And, I didn't I didn't have a KPI I did. Listen, when you have a smaller business, you run some personal stuff through that business and it gets really complicated, right? How much did I really make? I had this one friend, right? God, he was the worst entrepreneur I've ever seen. He's like 7 failed businesses. It was horrible, right? And he still hasn't ever given up the dream, but he's just terrible. So much so that his wife doesn't allow him to have credit cards. She only gives him cash every week, and
that's what Profit First does. It gives you cash every week.
Well, then I guess
and it controls you, right?
Yeah. Well, I can't see him using Profit First. He's just,
that's fine. I get it. And I agree with you. I think you need to understand the KPIs. You need to know your numbers. I say your business is a math equation. The better you can figure out that equation and what the different inputs are and how they work, the better you are able to control the levers and see where to put your time, effort, and resources and be able to do that. And I think that's a very important part of it that not everyone does.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the other thing is, when business owners put their personal expenses through the business, I call that it's a business expense. I go, okay, that's fine. What we've taught business owners to do is to have 2 separate credit cards. One for true business expenses and one for these other business expenses, because then what I can do every month is I can say, hey, you took $7,000 in salary, you took $3,000 in draw. By the way, this month you ran $2,500 of personal expenses through the business.
Yeah.
And so you just have clarity on the numbers right there on the dashboard. And when they do that, they're like, oh, wow, I spent a lot of money in the business. And it's even worse when the spouse has got one of those business cards.
Yeah, we track those expenses. So, rather you do it through, which is a good idea, your credit card, a separate credit card, or if you do it through just keeping a journal of it. We do that. Now, it's a little easier. I always did that, even though I didn't have a partner. My partner is a big proponent of that too. It's more imperative if you have a partner, because you got to keep track of it, making it equal.
Yes.
So that I agree with you, but you can't just put it all in one thing. And listen, nobody who's listening to this you're just not going to be Steve Jobs. You're not going to be Bill Gates. You're not going to build this company that's going to go public. And so what I like about the profit first model is it maximizes the profit out of the limited amount of revenue that you're really probably going to make, right? You're going to get to maybe 3 million, maybe you're going to get to 10 million, but that revenue is less significant than the profit. And you want to get the profit out of the business, and I like what you said, making the strategic decision is the best way to go.
It is. So you said when you started these businesses later on, you knew exactly what to do.
No, I said, yes, right? That's correct. I'm sorry. So the last 3 businesses, I knew exactly what I was doing.
So can you give us a little insight? What does that mean?
Well, the first thing is when we knew you got to have it, like when we started our 7th business, it was, all right, what accounting packages are we going to use? What's the CRM system we're going to do? What's the lead generation going to be like? What's the cost of acquisition of clients? What is, we need to have a website. We need to have this, that. We knew everything that we needed to do. We did a cash flow analysis to say, okay, how much money we're going to need over a period of time. When are we going to know to pull the trigger? Like, in other words, is when it's not working, how much we're going to put in. Those are all the things that we had learned over time that we just knew. It didn't take us 6 months, 12 months, 2 years to figure that out. We knew from day one, boom. Okay. So the other answer to your question, my core competency, something I'm really, really good at, is lead generation, which is marketing, right? I like the word lead generation because the ability to get people to come to you at a cost where you're going to make money. I'm really good at that. I believe that my businesses or my partner's eye business, one of the key ingredient is that we figured out the marketing part, which a lot of small businesses don't. They go by word of mouth or referrals, or the people just happen to show up. And that's a very, very, very small business. So you're never going to be a $3, $5, $10, $25 million businesses if you don't figure out that lead generation part. So those are the two areas.
And I know for many business owners, when I look at them, they have two main problems. Number one, they don't have enough revenue coming in, or it's inconsistent and they don't know what's driving it. Or two, they spend too much money. Profit First solves the second part. What is it that you're doing special, or what is it that you do that allows you to have that consistent lead gen, that it's basically a machine that works all the time and appropriately?
I work on it 95% of my time. I spend the majority of my time figuring out and measuring and trying something and seeing what works and measuring it. So it's like I've always kind of been that way. But with the last two businesses I have, which we are each $25 million each, I have a business partner that is really good on the back end of things. He's really good on all the other stuff. So like Financing Solutions is one of the companies I own. We provide business lines of credit to small businesses. All right. He really understands the financing space. He really understands the legal aspects. He understands the due diligence. That allows me to focus on 95% of my time as getting clients, and it allows me to test and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and what makes us money, what doesn't make us money. I'm really good at it. I'm really anal about understanding our cost of acquisition, and that's why those businesses have done so well. Financing Solutions has done so well. It's because we know what the magic bullet is for us to get clients.
How does someone who's not great at marketing figure that out?
You're going to have to spend time, and you're going to have to say, I'm going to figure it out. It's just, you have to start spending more and more and more of your time on it. You got to read, I guess. You maybe get a business coach on who specializes in those type of things. Make sure they've done it a lot of times before. I think that would be the way to go. If your core competency isn't marketing and you're a small business owner, you're not really going to be able to hire somebody to kind of, what a lot of people do? They just go out and they get a salesperson. Oh, that's my marketing channel. Okay. Well, listen, I learned that early on. Okay. Because I'm a salesperson by nature. I was the top sales rep in the country for 8.5 years for Xerox, which was the Google of its day, right? 5,000 sales reps. And I was one of the top, right? When I brought on salespeople, I saw, one, good ones are really, really hard to find. Two, they're really, really expensive. And three, they're crazy. So I learned early on that if you control the lead generation, you don't have to have great salespeople. You don't have to have people who control. Like, that's the worst. Everybody who owns their own business, you would think it's because you want to make money. It's not. Everybody I know who owns business, it's about control. What I mean by that is you want to be able to control your own destiny. Okay? I don't mean, take me wrong. It doesn't mean control your business, that you have to control everything. That's a sure sign that you are going to be a small business if you have to control everything and you have that personality.
I think the word freedom, the freedom to be able to do what you want in life and make choices.
Yeah, I think that's true. The only thing I learned early on, which I would tell you, is you're always answering to somebody. and you're going to be answering you're answering to your customers.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you think you're going to have the freedom to do what you want, and that's it. I mean, yes, you have the freedom. I like the freedom because I get to work on what I want to work on. That's a different story. Yes.
But someone has to work on the rest. And in your case, you found a partner who's very good at the other half of it. And they're doing the other half, and you're doing the half that you're good at. And together you make a great partnership.
Yeah. And I had one before, one of my other companies that did very well, where I just hired people to do like the things that I didn't want to do. Like I didn't want to do sales. I had been there, done that. So I hired salespeople. So there's always I think there's a really great book called Now Discover Your Strengths. It's really old. It was produced by the Gartner Group. And it really makes you aware of focusing on the things that you do well and not doing the things that you don't do well.
And I concur with that. That's one of the things we talk about, and we get business owners to think about. Number one, what is your time worth? What brings you energy? What drains your energy? And then how do we outsource what drains you and what's not filling you? And then if you know what your time is worth, it makes it easier to say, why am I doing a $20 task or a $30 task when my time is worth $100, $500, $1,000 an hour? Because that's where my value comes in, and learning to let go of those things. And that's not easy for business owners to let go sometimes. And some people have those control issues. I get it, but eventually you have to let go. So what is this? We live in a world of marketing that is more marketed to than ever. How have you been able to cut through all that noise and get to the appropriate people?
You got to come up with an idea of a. So I'll give you an example. Like we did direct mail for a while, right? And so, we purchased a list. We knew what we thought we knew. We did. We knew what our target audience was going to be like. We purchased people don't do direct mail anymore. Direct mail works. Okay.
I actually tell a lot of my clients to do direct mail because direct mail is cheap and it lasts, right? They say a Twitter post lasts 8 seconds. That postcard, it gets put up on the fridge. Oh yeah, I got to call these guys or this. And it sticks around a lot longer. And today direct mail is cheaper than anything else out there. Practically.
Yeah, well, you got to do, and you got to the key is you got to measure its success. So we did that for several years, maybe 4 or 5 years, right? And then this is the key: you got to have a unique URL code on it, so that when someone either you have to be able to measure everything. So you do it, you try it. Does it work? Did it make you money? If you can't put numbers behind it, don't do the marketing plan. Because you've got to be able to, so you keep testing. So direct mail, trade publication, SEO, SEM, SEO is natural searches. SEM is paid for searches, strategic partnership programs or affiliated marketing. There's TV ads, there's all these different things, right? Display ads. I tried them all, right? And then you keep and say, then you see what works. And then you say, okay, this isn't working. We've given it a good enough try. We have to move on to something else, right?
What's a good enough try?
Oh, I think it depends on the marketing channel. I think there is stuff that I've done that made us a little bit of money, but it wasn't worth the effort. So I move on, and sometimes I do things 2 or 3 different marketing plans. But when I started off, now we have it. Now I know exactly what works for my companies. But I think the old adage is it takes 3 years for a company to know if it's working or not. And then you gotta decide, do I cut bait or do I give it another try? You should be able to figure out your business in 3 years. So it's just like what I always have done is I sit there with a pad, or I could do it on my computer, and I come up with all the ideas of what different marketing channels are out there for me. And then I say, okay, this is the best probability. I think this one might work. And then I build a plan around it and go from there. So
one of the tools that we've been using lately is AI. And what AI has done has helped me to create marketing messages in a fraction of the time with a skill that I couldn't match. It's amazing what can be done today easily. And then it's a matter of learning how to use it appropriately. But it's amazing at coming up with certain messaging, but you have to feed it information first. Like the more you can tell it about your avatar and who you're looking to talk to, and the more you can tell it about your business, the better the responses have come back. Have you played around in that space at all?
I just did. I didn't know much about, I think it's called Chat AI, right? And I downloaded it. I started looking at it. So, I don't know yet. I was looking at it I forget, it wasn't a marketing thing, but I think it's worth trying it. I think, that's what you need to do is try these new things.
You do. And again, it's understanding how to use the tool. So you've got this expertise in marketing. If somebody wants to improve their marketing skills or sharpen them, are there certain resources or things that you recommend or that you've learned from that have been most helpful?
Well, the old adage is that if you read a book on something, you are 90% an expert. So you certainly, I'm trying to think of one for marketing. I don't have one off the top of my head. It's been a long time since I've had to read one. But, I'll give you another example it's in a different area, but one of the companies I started, I wasn't happy with the type of people we were hiring. And so when I started my next company, I said, we are going to be experts, the best at hiring people. And so I really dove into that subject, right? I got books on it. I took courses on it, and we became really good at it. So my point of saying is, if you want to be good at something, you have to pick a battle and you have to dive into it. If you're going to pick a battle, I think marketing. So I would say, find a good book, read a lot of stuff on the internet, put a lot of time in it, bucket your time. I've always done a good job of putting time on my calendar to really work on something. And outside of running your business on a day-to-day, I think you can work on one thing that you say, I'm going to be really good. And rather you do that at night when you get home, rather you take a Friday afternoon and bucket out 3 to 4 hours at a coffee shop. I think marketing is probably one of the most important things that anybody could focus on, because all the companies I've had, the reason they've been successful is because I constantly get clients to come to us. I constantly get prospects to come to us that can become clients that make us money. And that's the key.
That is the key. It sounds so simple, but doing simple is not easy. And so there's another book that I love. It's called The 12-Week Year. And the 12-week year is based on the same principle as Profit First, Parkinson's Law. And what I have started to do now is every quarter I pick a theme and I focus on that one theme and I go through it. So like this past first quarter, our theme was, hey, we want to go through and make sure we're serving our clients the best. So I'm going to go read every other financial book from every other expert, and I'm going to make sure that our systems are good, and I'm going to pull things out of their books and their formulas and their dashboards, and we're going to see where we need to update ours. And so that's a big part of it. Second quarter for me is all about appropriate tax planning. So we're going to dig in and look at all the different tax plans out there. I'll go find the experts and we'll come back and we'll create a list for our clients to say, hey, this is good. This is bad. These are things to consider that may or may not work. And every quarter this way, I've got one focused goal. And if it's something else that's the shiny object, I go, okay, I'll put it on the list. And maybe that's third quarter. Maybe it's fourth quarter, and then you can pick and you can move around, but that focus really helps me to dig in. If one book gets me 90%, imagine what 6 books and, 3 months of study gets me in that particular area.
I like it. And I think learning to me has always created energy. So I like it. I think that entrepreneurs are that way. The term is autodidactic. They're self-taught, but I don't know any entrepreneur who doesn't love to learn, Now, learning for learning's sake is not good. You got to focus it on something that's really going to help your business. I think when you're talking about profit, I think it tends to dictate where you're going to go. But I agree with you. In the beginning, you are running around with your head cut off and you're trying to learn how to run your business. But after you've kind of done that for a while, you kind of figure out, hey, I got to focus a little bit. One of the biggest problems I see with small businesses is the owner tries to control and do everything. And that's the recipe for disaster.
You have to let go.
Yeah, and prioritize what you're good at, where you should be spending your time. And you're going to learn eventually, or you're going to have a shitty life. Your life is not your business. It's just not, but I do get it. If your business is going well, then your life tends to go well. Okay. But you don't have to spend 95% of your time only thinking about your business. In fact, if you take care of your health and you take care of your family and you're involved with friends, your business is going to do better. And you're going to, I often say this, a business is a marathon, not a sprint.
No, and that's why we have two podcasts. This one's all about being profitable. The other one, Richer Soul, is all about that. How do you find the harmony in your life and in your business? How do you become the better leader? It's all the soft side of it. This is the numbers side. That's the soft side. And how do you put it all together and make it work for you? Because it is that back and forth. Otherwise, I tell business owners, if you're not taking care of your spouse will take your business. And that's the most expensive lesson you can learn.
Yeah, I get it.
And taking care of kids too, because at the end of the day, if you're doing this to provide for your kids, but you're not there for your kids, you're missing out on life.
Well, that is supposed to be taking care of your kids. Well, I would change the model a little bit, which I had a number of years ago. I made a change in my priorities. We're talking like 15 years ago, where I said is if I am not healthy, I didn't have any issues. But I said, if I don't take care of myself first, I'm not good, no good to my family, I'm no good to my kids, no good to my spouse, no good to my business, no good to my employees. So, I've always been good about this. I exercise every day. I try to eat right. I don't drink too much. I don't smoke. To me, when you show up at work, that is your Super Bowl. That is game time. And you have to be at your best. So this is where it fits. If you're taking care of your spouse and your employees and your kids, and you aren't taking care of yourself, well, it's going to catch up to you. All right. So my priority and my advice to everybody is you have to think of yourself first.
And I agree with that. That is the cornerstone, is knowing yourself, knowing what you want from life, and then building the rest of it to follow that in doing that. So I totally agree with you. Is there anything that we should have talked about that we haven't?
Oh, there's a million things. I'm not going to tell you how to run a business in 30 minutes. I think, I don't know. You tell me, Rocky, what do you think was our biggest takeaway today?
I think it's marketing. I think it's an area that most business owners ignore because a lot of them, let's face it, a lot of people don't like the numbers and the finances, so they ignore it. And sales and marketing is not everyone's gig. Yeah. And we too often, I think we rely on other people to do that. And I was told very early in my business, they said to me, if you pay for your leads, you will never stop paying for your leads. So figure out how to do it without spending a fortune, meaning paying other people and doing all of that to build your systems, because you'll be dependent on them. And I think that was the biggest lesson that I focused on, building my own lead system.
Yeah, and I would say measure everything. Rocky, if client, you should know your cost of what you make off of client. So let's say, Rocky, this is not true. Let's say you make $10,000 every time you land a client, right? And it costs you $1,000 to get that client. Would you do it?
As long as I know that I'm making the $10,000.
Well, you got to know.
Yes, you have to know.
You got to know.
Well, and that's the joke I always tell you. The marketing guys will go, hey, if you put $1 in a machine every day and you got $2 back, how many times would you put the $1 in the machine? All day long. But I go, wait a minute. When you put the $1 in the machine and you get $2 back, there's $1.50 delivery on that, right? In other words, you've got to give that client the work that you promised them. And they ignore that. Marketing people ignore your cost of goods, your cost of overhead, and all of those factors. And
that's a separate thing. And I agree with that. But let's all start off with your listeners knowing. Okay. You got to know what you're making off of each client. Okay. Forget about the fixed costs that you're talking about. Okay. You got to know what you're making off of each client, the gross profit.
Yes.
Okay. And you got to know what your cost of acquisition is. If it's going to cost me $1,000 and I'm going to make $10,000 off of each client, you're going to want to do that over and over. You can't have a successful business until you figure that out, and you got to know the numbers. You got to know, so if you don't know them, and then the other thing is go back to your accountant too, if you want. Okay. Or hire somebody. I would say go to your accountant because they're good at that stuff, but you got to figure it out.
You have to know your numbers. And I always say your business is a math equation. You've got to figure out the math for your business. And then you've got to create a dashboard that shows the KPIs for your business, and you got to measure them. And the more you can measure, the more you can see results, you'll know where in the process the problem is. Whether it's lead gen, whether it's your salespeople aren't closing your leads, whether you're not fulfilling, or where in the process the problem goes. So that's the big thing that we do. We try and help you have a good dashboard to be able to do that. If people would like to learn more about you, check out your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, the company that I think was most relevant to the listeners is financingsolutionsnow.com. That's our website. So it's financingsolutionsnow.com. We provide lines of credit to small businesses. That's what we do for a living. We're throughout the entire United States. And I've always had a line of credit. I know the value of it. I'm a passionate believer that every business owner should have a line of credit just in case. If you want to find out how much you qualify for, and if you don't qualify, why? Just fill out the simple 2-minute application. There's no documents required, and we'll let you know.
And I think that's an important reason to know why you don't qualify, so you can do something about it. Because if you don't qualify, chances are it's telling you there's a problem in your business model.
Or the financing market doesn't like you. So yeah. I mean, that's, listen, if you haven't ever approached a bank to get a line of credit, commercial bank, you're in for a shock. So it's hard.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was good being here, Rocky. Thanks for having me.
Do you think of yourself as a salesperson for your business? It's a theme that comes up a lot. And I'll tell you, as we talked about, you are most likely the best salesperson you will ever find, at least for your business. Someone also needs to run the operations. We've talked about visionaries and the ops person, and together it's rocket fuel. Find a partner, hire, figure out ways to get this done. Most businesses don't make it to 7 and 8 figures, but you can by thinking through and figuring out a path forward and taking the appropriate steps. We find it amazing how many businesses we see where the revenues are large like this, but the owner is not properly rewarded. That's what we fix. Because if you're going to grow, you should be rewarded. What takeaways can you implement in your business from today's conversation? Don't forget, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. Remember to focus on the bottom line.
If you'd like for us to be a part of your profitability journey, we have different programs available ranging from do-it-yourself to one-on-one coaching. Our course, The Profit Thing You Need to Know to Transform Your Profitability. There are 3 different tiers ranging from DIY to done with you so that businesses of all sizes best. Join the waitlist in the show notes to get more information and be a part of the next cohort. If you want a W service, you can hire us as your Chief Profitability Officers. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with businesses who have or are growing to $500,000 to $10 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet with interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. Remember to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk live the ultimate life and be the best business owner you can be. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.